Hello and welcome to episode 47 of Bloggers Are Weird. I'm your host, DJ Paris, from the blog thoughtsfromparis.com, and I have some pretty exciting news. At least for me it's exciting. If you are ever thinking of going to a blog conference, I have the perfect blog conference for you, which is Blog University. It is this June 10th through the 12th. Which happens to be my birthday, June 10th. And I will also be there because I am one of the keynote speakers, which I am eternally grateful. I never thought in a million years anyone would want me to become a keynote speaker for their... It makes me wonder maybe who turned it down before me, because I couldn't have been first on that list. But I am so excited and grateful, and I started preparing for the conference and the talk, which is like 5 months away. So in all seriousness, tickets are almost sold out. I know that because they just told me. But so if you do want a ticket, you should go to Blog U Conference. That's blog, the letter U, conference.com. It is an amazing conference. It's small. They keep it to several hundred people, participants. All of the instructors know their stuff. There's probably, 20 to 30 different sessions you can attend. And I'll be there as well. So I went last year, did a thing about podcasting, which I think went well. And this year they're having me back. So I'm actually sharing the keynote stage with two other great presenters. One is David Del Porto from My Life Suckers, and the other is Gigi Renee from All the Many Layers. So go to bloguconference.com, sign up today. Do yourself a favor. Do something nice for yourself. You'll enjoy it, I promise. And it's going to close very shortly, registration. They haven't even announced the other speakers yet, and it's almost sold out. So go sign up, bloguconference.com. Today on the show, we have Susan Maccarelli, who I met at Blog U Conference last year. She attended my session on podcasting. She didn't need to because she already had a podcast, and she does a very, very good job with it. And also as a professional writer, blogger, as well as editor, and she just does it all. She has a fantastic blog called PeckedToDeathByChickens.com, which is her own personal writings. And then she has a really amazing resource for every blogger who wishes to be published by someone else, which is called BeyondYourBlog.com. And just to give you a taste of what's on BeyondYourBlog.com, aside from all of Susan's podcast episodes and amazing articles about editing and getting published, she has literally a directory with, I think, several hundred websites that accept submissions, who to contact, do they pay, how to get in, and literally has them tagged out by genre. So if you're a humor mommy blogger that writes about special needs children, there's a tag for that, and you can find those types of opportunities. So check it out. It is so cool. So grab a bottle of Screw Top Chianti or whatever your drug of choice is. Mine is just regular old Fresca. Going back to the original diet drink. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Bloggers Are Weird is sponsored by moreblogreaders.com. Moreblogreaders.com is the home for the greatest teacher of how to build a business and get more readers for your blog, Darren Rouse. If you aren't familiar with Darren, you need to be, because over 320,000 bloggers get his newsletters. He has over 7,000 articles on his website, and he's written tons of books. In fact, when you go to moreblogreaders.com, you will see a list of Darren's books. I highly encourage you to start with 31 Days to a Better Blog. By going to moreblogreaders.com, you'll get special pricing for being a Bloggers Are Weird listener. So are you ready for more traffic and more success with your blog? Then go to moreblogreaders.com.
Five reasons I'm unqualified to teach my preschooler about her private parts. I recently read a blog post about how important it is to teach toddlers about their body parts. Apparently, simply knowing the correct words for male and female genitals deters predators who know that these children will be more able to report being touched inappropriately. Cut to me sweating profusely. My daughter's almost 4, and unless front hiney and back hiney are the scientific words for the female anatomy, I think I might have failed here. I took the recommendation from the article about a specific book geared towards small children called Amazing You by Dr. Gail Saltz that teaches basics about private parts and reproduction. I wanted to be one of those parents who is all, my kid can talk to me about anything. But apparently, the truth is, they can talk to me about anything as long as it's not related to wieners and hoo-haws. In my pre-read, I confirmed that this book was loaded with all the parts, leaving nothing out. But hey, that's what I wanted, right? I quickly realized that I was not only unprepared, but unable, even with the help of a book, to effectively teach my daughter about private parts. After assessing my lacking skills, I was able to pinpoint several reasons for my ineptitude. Number one, time of day hinders me. I put off reading the book for several days, telling myself that it was never the right time of day. I mean, who wants to have that talk first thing in the morning? I at least need to have coffee before I bring up scrotums with a 3-year-old girl, thank you. I usually read to them, both my kids, before nap and bedtime, so I figured that would work. But then I felt weird about sending my daughter off to bed with visions of labias dancing in her head. It was just never the right time. Number two, boy parts make me giggle. On my first read aloud with my daughter, I began to rush, knowing that my husband would soon be making his way down the hall to join us after tucking our son in. I was uncomfortable enough reading it to her, but there was no way I could keep it together with him in the room reading sentences like, "Inside the sac under your penis are soft balls called testicles." First of all, since when is the SACK just an SAC? Where did the K go? Was it ever there? Why does the lack of a K make me want to laugh even more? I just finished with several pages of penis when I came to a page that had a baby, a small boy, and a man all drawn anatomically correct and naked. My daughter points to one of the penis trifecta and says, "Nipple." And I say, "No, it's a penis." And please note that there was no nipple talk in this entire book, so I have no idea where this was coming from. My daughter, "Look at the little nipple." Me, "It's a penis." Her voice getting more delighted and pointing her finger at it, "He's got a little nipple." Me, flipping back the page to the penis stuff and starting to laugh, "Penis." My husband coming down the hall with an earshot. My daughter, "Nipple, nipple, nipple." Me, laughing now, "Penis, penis, penis." My husband looks in the room, walks over and sees penis illustration, and quickly exits forever. The third reason I can't do it, girl parts kind of gross me out. There's certain words in the English language that, in general, gross me out. I don't like to say them and avoid them whenever possible. They make my throat close a little and I feel queasy. Stool, clot, nugget. Oh, God, you get the picture. A large portion of these gag words are part of the female anatomy, including uterus, womb, fallopian, etc. Once she found out that the baby lives there for 9 months, I was forced to repeat uterus 356 times in response to her questions. I thought it might desensitize me. I was wrong. Number 4, I'm hostile when it comes to childbirth questions. I didn't have the worst childbirth experience, but it wasn't great either. A 30-hour induced labor ending in a not quite emergency C-section with some nasty follow-up complications gave me a bad taste for birthing babies. The book, though, explains it as follows. The baby will come out of the mother's vagina, which is very, very stretchy. It stretches wide enough for the baby to come out and then goes back to the way it was before. I was at a loss for words. Since I had a C-section, I couldn't speak to vajayjay elasticity, but I can assure you that nothing on your body is like it was before, after childbirth, including a vagina that's been stretched around the back of your head to allow for the alien to exit. Luckily, while I can't talk vagina very well with my preschooler, I can lie like a mofo. I backed up this load of crap convincingly. She looked in the direction of her junk and then cast me a shifty look as if to say, "There's no way in hell." But we seemed to silently agree that it was just better to drop it for now. And number 5, I live in fear of kitchen table testicle talk, or KTTT. I think my final failure centers around my inability to really embrace this topic and make it acceptable discussion anywhere other than during the book reading. I'm haunted by the possibility of sperm, urethras, and penises rearing their ugly heads, pun totally intended, at the dinner table. More specifically, I'm horrified that my daughter will speak of them anywhere in public or where my parents, specifically my dad, might be present. Although a wonderful man and in very good health, one ill-timed scrotum might be enough to end him. Let's reflect on how I can improve. Going forward, I'll stifle my laughter and gag reflex. I'll cover the appropriate places to talk about the birds and bees equipment. I'll get into the truth about childbirth when she gets older. As far as time of day, I think I'll try to stick with the bedtime schedule for reading the book right before we hit the SAC.
Okay, I'm talking with Susan Maccarelli of the blog Pecked to Death by Chickens. Also, she has a different website, which is BeyondYourBlog.com, which has a podcast where she talks to editors about getting published, better writing practices. Also, Susan, aside from being a personal blogger, offers writing and editing services for bloggers, and kind of does what I do. She interviews interesting people, in her case, editors. So on her radio show. So thank you so much for being on our little podcast.
Thanks for having me. This is gonna be fun.
Yeah, well, I've never interviewed another podcaster before, so this is so we'll have to. I'm like way more nervous than I normally would be.
That's okay because you kind of do your own technical stuff, and you would probably beat me at any question on that topic. So
yeah, well, but that's the boring. That's the stuff that doesn't translate to entertainment. So it's just someone's got to do it. So I met you at BlogU.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we met before then.
No, that was the first. I know that was the first time we met. Yeah.
But then we were both at Blog Her a
Yes.
few months after that, and you actually spoke at Blog Her last year. And are you coming to the one this year?
I'm
Blog Her?
not. I'm like I'm an East Coast girl, and I could go like to Chicago, but it's
too
just
far.
too much for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you going to Blog U?
I am. I'm planning to go to Blog U, so I'm looking forward to
Cool.
that because it's like right in my
I'll
back
see you.
door there.
Yeah, I will see there. But a little bit more about Susan. I'm sorry, I cut off before before I actually started talking about some of more of what you've done, because you actually do have a really impressive bio. I mean, you've been published everywhere that accepts funny or good blogging submissions, such as, gosh, you've been on HuffPo, Scary Mommy, Blog Her, and The Powder Room. You were in Jen Mann's I Just Want to Pee Alone book. You've kind of been everywhere. And you're speaking are you speaking at BAM as well this year?
I am. I'm going to, and that's in Las Vegas in April, the Bloggers at Midlife. So I'm looking forward to that too. With Estelle, who is also a guest on your podcast.
Who puts that conference together?
It's a site called Midlife Boulevard, Sharon Greenthal and Ann Paris. I think you know.
I thought it was Ann's. I wasn't totally sure.
I'm assuming probably will be this year too, but she was kind of the MC, if you will. So she was really fun.
Yeah, I call her 2R and she calls me 1R because we both have Paris as the last name. Yeah. And we both go to every single conference she probably goes to more than I do, but I always run into her every single show. I think she's been to every conference I've ever been to.
Yeah.
So she's great. She tried to explain to me, speaking of Anne and midlife, about 3 years ago in Chicago when we rode the bus together to go to something, and I asked her what she like. Well, what are you writing about? And she said midlife, and I didn't know what that meant because I'd never heard that word, and I thought she kept saying midwife, and I was just kind of trying to do the math on how many midwives are there still. Like, is that a big? Do people read that?
What do you write about? Don't you run out of stuff?
But I didn't understand what the word midlife meant, and I couldn't just you're sitting next to somebody on a bus, you can't pull out your phone and Google definition of midlife.
Yeah.
But
that's so funny.
But yeah, and God, she's like such a superstar now in that whole genre.
I know. Well, I really didn't know. Like, I kind of was like, hey, midlife, like, is that like 50, 60? Like, what? I don't know. And because, like 60 is the new 40. I don't know. And so last year I was kind of like, okay, I wonder, like, am I going to look too young? Like, that's a real worry. I was 30. Sure. I was 39. Okay. But then when
and you look maybe 25.
Well, there was people there who were like, there was one girl, I think it was like 32 or something. So I'm like, oh, I'm like an old lady compared to you. But no, it's such a really welcoming bunch. So it was good. But it was kind of funny. I was like, oh, am I going to get like shunned because I have a baby face? But no, it's not really that much of a baby face. I got more gray hair this year. So It's okay.
Let's not gloss over the 60 is the new 40. Nobody is saying that. The only people saying that are people over 60, and it is their own self-interest. No 40-year-old is going, oh, 60 is kind of the new
Yeah.
40.
Well, I'm
But
40 and I feel like 40 is the new 20, you know?
well, that's because you're
Yeah,
40.
exactly.
I hit 40 in June of this year. Actually, at BlogU, I will be 40 on June 10th. So that is, was that a tough day for you, or was it no
No,
big
not
deal?
at all. It was not. I turned 40 the day I spoke at Blog Her this summer. So I was
Oh,
like, okay,
wow.
this is like a rite of passage, but no, because my 20s my teens were fine. I wasn't like a rebellious teen. My 20s like I was a complete just mess with boys and just an idiot. And then my 30s I started getting it together, and then at 40 I'm like I know what I'm doing.
Wow, that's amazing. I think I will be horribly depressed because I and not. I mean, my life is on paper looks okay, I suppose, and I don't have any major outstanding problems, but it is not exactly, like if I look at the savings account, it's not quite where I thought I'd be at 40, but I guess nobody's probably is.
No.
So that's probably not uncommon. But yeah, it's 39 was no big deal. I feel like 40 I'm going to try to make sure it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
The good news is I'll be at a conference. I won't have as much time to think about it. But let's talk about your success. In particular, I wanted to start with your personal blog, PeckedToDeathByChickens.com, which is really funny, by the way. I mean, obviously, you don't need me to tell you that. But oh, by the way, Susan also said something really interesting when we were sort of going over what we were going to talk about. And she said, I'm not really a very good writer. And then, by the way, here's 20 places that have published my work. So that's like the model, the professional model going, I was pretty awkward as a 13-year-old. And you're like nobody feels sorry for you. And number one, no, you weren't. You were always that beautiful. But yeah, so let's talk about, because I think what you focus on in particular with your Beyond Your Blog podcast and the services you offer is about getting published. And you talked about you were telling me how that really took your personal blog to another level. And I absolutely 100% agree. It did the same for me. And I really have only been on a couple of sites. I've only submitted to a few sites, and even just doing that years ago, and actually have an In the Powder Room thing coming up,
Oh,
a couple of
cool.
things actually in the next few months. Yeah. But being on other sites got me so much more visibility to my own stuff. So I'd like can you tell us that story about how you started and then getting published, what that did to,
Yeah.
your readership?
Yeah, so I guess it was October 2013. Like actually had never heard the word blog before, and my husband he's one of these people that's like always learning. Like we were snowed in this weekend, and he was like on the Khan Institute, like learning about like factorials and like number. I mean, he is like a learning nerd, and I'm like, my brain is full. I'm done. And so he's always like would be on these blogs, like learning and reading and trying new things and all this stuff. And I was just like, I'm just let me do my crossword, like let me sew this thing or whatever. Like I don't want to learn. And so we were on our way. His family owns this cabin out in the middle of nowhere. So we're on our way, and he's like talking about blogging, and he really wanted to start a blog. And then he starts to get on this kick where I should start a blog. And I'm like, there's no way. Like, I hate writing. I'm not good at it. And he's like, well, just like write something and let me see. So I wrote something, and then I read it to him on the way to the cabin. And I was like, I always laugh at my own jokes. So, of course, I thought it was hilarious. And
Sure.
he thinks that I laugh at my own jokes, but and I do. So I read it to him. And I'm like, this is actually pretty good. So, long story short, when I got back, he like, set up this WordPress site and all that. And I just, would type in my things. And so I was having fun doing it. And, but of course nobody was reading it. So I kind of was like, hey, this is okay, but I would only really be motivated maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks to really write something. And nobody was reading it. So I would sit there like on my Google Analytics and like, oh my gosh, somebody's reading it, like right after I would post. And
Right.
there's 2 people on or something like that. So one night I was doing that because that's what I would do with my free time, was watch Google Analytics. And there was like 9 people on the site, and that was like out of control. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like, look, there's 9 people on the site. Like, where are they coming from? What's happening? And so,
Sure.
so he comes over and he's like, well, they're coming from the site Blog Her. And I had found Blog Her and posted something on there, but I really didn't think anything would come of it. And it was this post about coming out of the closet as a QVC watcher, which I don't even know if you know what that is, but it's this shopping channel.
Oh, I know what that is, and my girlfriend has been on it selling things,
Okay,
so
we're
I
gonna
know
need to
all
talk
about it.
later because I
Sure.
probably will know who she. You have to tell me what she's selling. But anyway, oh wow, that's exciting. So yeah, so I watch. I would watch all the time, but people would be like, I remember my father-in-law saying like, but you're like so young, and like, what do you buy? Do you actually buy things? Like, why do you? Why he didn't understand like that I wasn't a cat lady or something.
You're not buying the fake, and rest in peace. And I love Joan Rivers, but you're not buying the fake Joan Rivers
Right,
jewelry
the bee
that she
pins.
would sell.
Yes,
Right.
no, I don't have any bee pins. I might have watched her, sell them,
Hmm.
but yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
anyways, I posted this thing about QVC, and it was when it got some momentum on BlogHer compared to what I was used to on my own blog, at least. And
Sure.
some of those people were coming over to my site, and it wasn't like a ton of people, but it was way more traffic than I usually had because nobody came to my site, and so that's like sort of where I got the bug with like, okay, like I can post my stuff on other websites and they already sort of have these established readers and audiences and people that like humor, which I can't seem to find them just sitting, on my blog. So I I would post more to blog her and I would start sort of like scraping and clawing to figure out, well, where else can I do this? Like, are there other sites like this? And then I started noticing in groups like on Facebook where other bloggers would say, like I'm up on Scary Mommy, and I'd be like, well, what's Scary Mommy? And but it was always sort of just like I'm up on HuffPost, I'm up here, I'm up there, but I never could find anywhere, at least the groups I was in, where people were sharing, here's an opportunity to submit, or hey, here's some tips for how to get on this site or whatever. So to me, it almost seemed like, and I was probably just paranoid, but it kind of seemed like this like secret that everybody else knew that I didn't know, or that nobody really wanted to share. They just want to tell you when they were being
I,
published. You know what I mean?
I think that is exactly. I think it is. They do not want to share. I feel like if you ask people directly, they'll give you the answer, but they will not
Yes.
volunteer. Here's how I got on Huffington Post. Or any of the sites. Most of the time, you're right though. I think. I think.
Which I mean, I guess it's because they don't want the competition or something, but at the same time, it's like
Who
there's
knows?
enough, for everybody. There's so many sites out there. So as I would like month after month, like I would find a new place and I'd like focus on it and, start following them and sharing from that site. And then I would submit something and kind of just figuring it all out, like hit or miss. I think it was like June, and after, October, I'd started my blog and I'd been submitting, and I was like, I wonder, like, there's got to be a site that gives like information about where you can submit and get published and all this. But most of what I found was more like literary magazines or, writers getting authors and stuff, people writing books, and not really geared towards, I'm a blogger. I have no writing background to speak of, which is me. And how can I find out more about getting my work out there? So I started Beyond Your Blog and kind of was like, okay, this is probably going to go nowhere. And there was a little part of me that thought, well, there's other people that know way more about this than me, so I shouldn't be doing this. But I did not listen to that. And I just started the site anyway. And then that's where my husband like pops in again with his, you should do a podcast. And I'm like, what's a podcast? Because no, I think I used to listen to the Blogging Betties. I don't know if you remember them. They like stopped their
Mm-mm.
podcast, but I used to really like that. So I had listened to that one, but I would only listen to it online. I don't even know how to get music onto my iPod or any of that. I'm very technologically backwards. So he showed me like how to get all set up with the podcast. He got the equipment and all that stuff, and all I do is call the person, and I set up the interview and all that, but I don't do anything on the back end. So that's how I started Beyond Your Blog. And it just started out with, I was like, I'm going to do one podcast a week. And I'm pretty sure this is going to fizzle out after like a month because I'm going to have talked to like the 4 editors I know, and then I'm not going to have anybody left. And so I started, and I was just writing all my own articles at that point. I do like 1 or 2 posts a week about like tips for submitting or, places that will pay you or whatever. And my first guest was Val Curtis from Bon Bon Break because I had been published there. And I'm like, maybe Val will talk to me. And she did. And then I talked to Leslie Marinelli, I think Jen
Hmm.
Man, and Rita Aarons from Blog Her were my first 4
Sure.
because I knew them,
Yeah.
And then after that, like once, and you probably know this too, like once you have, once you can start dropping names of like, well, so and so's been on my show, then you can start going after like, now those not, they don't have direct competitors per se, but like once I had KJ Delantonia, I could I could drop that name when I was pitching Washington Post on parenting. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
you can kind of like start snowballing that into, really good quality guests. Not that my first guests were, couldn't believe that those people wanted to talk to me, but you can kind of build momentum on that. And even though I didn't know a lot of my other guests, was able to get, some really good people on.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely, such a common thread for people who have had success coming in from other places instead of just somehow sort of by chance going viral on a post on their own blog. It's almost always, yeah, I started submitting, and that's exactly it's what I should be doing and I don't very, and it's probably what all of us should do more of is outreach. And I think what a lot of times bloggers who aren't sort of in that network of submitting and getting published elsewhere forget is all of these sites crave and need good content daily. Like that is the only thing they feed on, and it's how they make their money. So they need your posts. And if you are, if you have some good stuff, you will find, I mean, at the very least, you'll find someone desperate enough that'll take it. But over time, you will develop a reputation. And also, like you were saying, you'll be able to, I mean, all of those blogging sites all know each other as well.
Right.
So you start getting kind of passed around in a good way. And I also wanted to really commend you on your Beyond the blog site because, it's so funny. From a business perspective, I'm going to just quickly before I get into this, talk about what one of the things that's on there, along with a lot of other. You can obviously listen to all of Susan's podcasts and read a lot of great content. One of the, I think, I would call it invaluable, and I'm shocked that you do not charge for this because I know it is incredibly generous to give this away. You literally have, I don't even know how many hundred different opportunities for bloggers to submit, where to submit, who to submit to, what they pay, if you know that information, and I just clicked on humor, and there's like at least probably 30 to 50 different places you can submit right from your site. Like that is an amazing bit of information that nobody, to my knowledge, had put together.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few resources. Again, though, it's kind of like more literary magazines or poetry places and stuff like that. And like
Sure.
for me, I'm like, yes, some of the people that follow me are, highly paid freelance writers or people who are writing more literary stuff. But the majority of the people who are following me are bloggers, and maybe some have more writing experience than others, but we're just like writing about our kids or writing about our recipes or whatever, So, um, yeah, I put together that that directory, and I have it by niche or by paid opportunity, just because, like I said, when I started the site, I felt like it was sort of this big secret, and I just wanted it all together in one place. And at some point, we'll probably move to having it like more searchable, and at that point, we might, monetize in some way, so everybody can go and just copy and paste it away right now and take it before I
Well,
before
I
I do
mean,
that. But no, I don't know.
Well,
That's in the
yeah, I
future.
mean, like I was just thinking, like I would pay $100 minimum for this information, and here's why. Because for me to figure out, and I'm in the humor space, if for me to find all of those sites, figure out who to submit to, and get all that information, it would take me out. I mean, it would probably a dozen hours, or at least a handful of hours. That and time is money. That I would absolutely pay $100. I would pay somebody to do what you did for me.
Yeah.
And to me, $100 is nothing compared to the opportunities that are in here. And I mean, really, this is remarkable.
Well, thank you.
Like, I mean, unbelievable. What a great, and it's free, at
Yeah.
least for
Yeah,
now.
it is. It is.
And I love that you can also just sort by paid. So if you want
Yeah.
to get paid, you can do that. You can sort by that as well. So, oh my God,
I
that
mean,
is
I
so
use
cool.
it too because I put it together, but I don't have it all. I have a horrible memory, in fact. So people will say, "Where should I submit, this story?" And I'll just go in and, well, let me look real quick. Do you want to get paid? Okay, let me look, in the paid ones or whatever. So I probably use it more than anybody.
Well, sure, but still, just to make it available. I mean, this is the giving back and giving things for free nets you incredible goodwill in the industry and for just from other bloggers. And I appreciate it being free because there are a lot of bloggers that probably wouldn't pay for it, even though it's totally worth charging for. And I'm sure that just nets you a lot of readers and goodwill. But that is an awesome, awesome resource because a lot of us, we just have never done that kind of research. And I mean, oh my goodness, how many total sites are in that directory
That's a
altogether?
great question. I have, like, if you go to the submission opportunities and you click all, it would have everything, but I have not counted it for a long time. So yeah, I mean, it's probably at least a couple hundred, I would think.
Oh,
Yeah, it might be more than that. Might be three.
well, let's talk about what sort of the intent of Beyond Your Blog is,
Yeah.
and some of the services that you do offer, aside from just giving away some great free directory resources.
Yeah, I mean the overall intent is just to help bloggers get published for whatever reason. Like for some people it's to get paid. For some people it's I have this like social message that I want to share, or I'm writing about this really specific medical issue and I want to get in front of like a very specific group of readers. I want to get more followers to my site. I mean, there's tons and tons of different some people just want to work with really good editors and get sort of mentored. So there's tons of sort of benefits to doing it. I guess my purpose is to give people tips and direction and show them where they can do it so they're not spending months trying to figure it out like I was. And then, just make that information easily accessible. So, everybody can kind of be on the same page or on the same, I guess, even playing field. I'm just pulling every cliche I know right now, but sort of an even starting ground. And then it's more about the writing. It's not about who has the most time to look up where they can submit and secretly submit without telling any of their blogging friends. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we have the directory, like you mentioned. I have a Facebook group that I think we're like over 2,800 members now, and it's a really great community for kind of all things writing and submission related. So, you can join. I approve pretty much everybody.
And what is that Facebook group so people
It's
can search
called
for?
Beyond Your Bloggers. So my blog is Beyond Your Blog. So this is Beyond Your Bloggers with an S at the end. And you can just search it and should come right up in Facebook. But I do share submission opportunities there. They usually go into the directory, so you'll find them there too. But it's like, I'll usually share them in the group right when I first find them. And then we also do kind of a cool thing that we call the Hall of Fame. So every month I have a guest editor and they will read all the submissions that go into a thread. So anybody in the group can submit their favorite post, just one that was published outside of their blog in the previous month. And then the guest editor goes through and actually reads them all. There's usually like 70 or 65 or something. So there's a lot. And then they pick their favorite in 5 different categories. And then there's no like monetary reward, but I put them in the sort of permanent page of the Hall of Fame posts on beyondyourblog.com. And then we promote the heck out of them, like on social media, that, they get a badge, they go into my newsletter, all kinds of stuff. So it's kind of fun. And then we just have a daily thread where, as people are getting published outside of their blog, they can put their post in there and share it. Because there were so many places where like you can share your blog post from your own blog, but I like I wanted to start like, well, here's a thread where it's specifically and only for the post that you've had published elsewhere. So yeah, it's fun little group, and I pretty much will approve anyone. So please come join.
That is so cool. Let's talk about podcasting. So basically, to just sort of put a pin in that is to say, hey, if you are looking to get published, join the Facebook group. Beyond Your bloggers, and then also go to Beyond Your Blog and check out all the directory resources. And also you can hire Susan as well as for all sorts of things, tech editing, submission, all that stuff. And so let's talk about podcasting, because I think you sat in on the podcasting thing I did.
I did.
Last year, even though you were already doing it, which I appreciate, by the way. But I do want to talk about how, at least to me, and not that podcasting I wasn't a radio person. I had never done any sort of show in my youth. I didn't have vocal training or any of that, but it just seemed like it would make sense to me for a way to maybe attract people who weren't blog readers. And I'm a guy, and I just think maybe more women seem to read blogs, or at least the kind of stuff I write, than men. And I thought, well, maybe this would attract some guys, and also maybe it would attract more readers, or maybe they'd start reading my blog if they're listening to podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
So talk a little bit about why you started your podcast. I know what your podcast is,
Right.
but sort of how that works, and how you enjoy it, and
Mm-hmm.
just if you walk me through a little bit of that.
Well, I started it, like, my first podcast launched the day that I launched Beyond Your Blog, and it was just something that I felt would kind of lend credibility because I am not the most knowledgeable person about submissions in the world. Yes, I know a lot about it, probably more than most bloggers, because that's what I spend my day focusing on. I'm not writing a lot of blog posts for my personal blog anymore, but I just felt like, okay, this will legitimize me a little bit more to say, like, okay, I have these contacts with editors. I'm bringing that information to you. Like, that's kind of my purpose, is to make this site useful. And I wanted to be that useful person, even if I'm not like the award-winning writer myself. I feel like, sometimes other bloggers will, or other writers will shy away from doing something, not necessarily beyond your blog, but something else like that to help others, because they feel like, well, I'm not the best at this, or other people know more than I do, which is BS, because really just being organized and reliable can take you a really long way, because I'm sure there's people who know way more about submitting than I do, but they're not doing it. They're not sharing it. You know what I mean? So
Right.
that's kind of one of the reasons I said, well, let me do this podcast, because I felt like, not everybody's going to read a blog, or like me, I have two little kids, and sometimes it's easier to stick a podcast on while I'm washing dishes than to try to read something. I don't know why, but so that was one of the reasons for the podcast. And as far, like, at first I was pretty nervous doing it, because like you, I'd never like interviewed anybody, or I couldn't stand the sound of my own voice. I always said, like, I have a man voice, it's too deep or whatever. But over time you just get over that, right? You get over that in like 2 or 3 episodes. And I really enjoy it. In fact, it's probably the thing I enjoy most, more than writing posts, or doing the social media. I like aspects of those things, but for me, like, the finding the guest, booking the guest, writing the questions. And in fact, I spend your podcast is actually more conversational than mine.
Hmm.
Mine's much more. It's probably a little more structured, more so
Sure.
because I am really not good at like any sort of improv. So, I mean, I know we kind of know what we're going to talk about, but at the same time, mine's like, I will ask you this question next. A little
Sure.
bit more
Sure.
like
Well,
that.
I know I should do that, and I
No,
don't.
no, no.
So
I think for your format, this is probably a lot better. But um, I spend probably twice as much time, and you might do this too, beforehand, just preparing like what I'm going to talk about, than actually
sure.
the 30-minute call or whatever that I'm on. So, but I really like talking to editors, and I found like everybody is so receptive to it. I mean, there's people that have said, no, I don't want to do your podcast before,
Oh, sure.
that happens. But especially like, because I get too big for my britches and ask, these really big people. But then some of them say yes. So you're like, okay, sure.
It is shocking. I've been turned down by everyone, and I've also been. I have people who are really big deals. I like three in particular that I just like. They said yes a year ago, and then I just never followed up
Oh,
because I
yeah.
was busy. And I could just, and I'm sure I could go back and they'd say yes. It is absolutely remarkable, and I think part of the reason is I don't think it's because I'm so great or the show is so important, because it certainly isn't going to skyrocket anybody's traffic, for me at least, in with my audience. But probably helps a little, but that's probably being generous. But there just aren't many podcasts out there that talk to bloggers. So,
Yeah.
or at least in our space, I would say. I mean, there's a few people that have started some, and then they're no longer around. but I don't know, there's like Ellen and Aaron who do, who have their show,
Hmm.
who I spoke with it and you saw,
Yeah.
and then you and me, and I don't, maybe I really don't know. Maybe there's a few other
I
people.
don't
That's
know.
probably about
Well,
it.
I think one of the things with a podcast have like a successful podcast is like just keep doing it because most people like drop
Yes.
off the map after like a few episodes for whatever reason. But yeah, like I've skipped a week here or there. Like I don't publish usually like Thanksgiving, Christmas week because nobody listens to it. But
Right.
for the most part, I publish every week, and I just do it as if it were my job and I was getting paid big bucks for it, which I'm not, but I treat it that way. And
Sure.
so, I think that that does give you a lot of credibility, but just because you kind of have that track record and people see like, oh, he's been doing that a long time. So, that's helpful.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I still am absolutely amazed that more bloggers don't try it. And I always tell people, I don't think your audience really cares if you do something that's kind of not very good.
Yeah.
I think they will forgive you
Hmm.
because you are human. Now, if you consistently put out a bad product, whether it's bad writing or every podcast is terrible. Well, you know what? Even if you did do a terrible podcast, but you were a blogger first, they just wouldn't listen to your podcast. So they'd probably still keep reading.
Yeah.
I am sure there are tons of people that do not like my podcast, and I say that because I don't get much feedback. I don't get negative feedback, but I don't get a ton of positive feedback. I get people that say nice things, but not like with my writing.
Yeah.
So I suspect I'm not as good of a podcaster as I am a writer, which I know that's true, which is fine because then people just don't listen to my podcast. I don't really
Right.
care.
Right.
Um, but I think there is an over focus, at least, and I think it's human nature to sort of do the like, no, I only want to do it if I'm good.
Hmm.
And I get that. And I think consistently you do have to put out a good product, but I don't think you have to put out a great product most of the time. I don't hit home runs, whether it's a podcast or my writing, 9 out of 10
Yeah.
times. But I hit at least singles
Yeah.
or a double.
Right.
Maybe the podcast, maybe not as much there, but certainly with my writing, and that's why I consistently get compliments on my writing. But I tell people like, hey, try a YouTube video, try a few. I mean, I do YouTube videos, no one watches them. Okay, maybe I'm not that great at them, but I don't feel like I get penalized by the audience
Yeah.
for it.
No, I think you hit on it because like even at your presentation at BlogU, it was all about podcasting, and everybody in there was like all revved up to podcasts. But like, how many podcasts? Actually, I think people get so excited about it, and then either they start it, and it can be a lot of work because the editing they get like turned off by the technical part of it, or
Sure.
it's just like you said. I think
It's overwhelming, I
yeah,
think.
but I think like you said though, like they feel like they have to like do everything perfect. And you're so right. Like you totally don't have to do everything perfect. Like you don't even have to have the great mic or the great, equipment. Like just use your computer, thing. Like yeah, you and I would be like, "Oh, I hear sounds." But most people do not care about that stuff, and they don't care if your editing's not perfect or you
Right.
stumble or whatever. I mean, I would agree. Like, just do it and like try it, and if you like it, then you can work on the perfecting it part.
Well, and you're right, and I am amazed at just how few people try it, and I understand, a blogger who is just writing their own stuff, and maybe they don't have the equipment, although you don't need that much equipment, but I get that part of it. But with the bigger sites, and I don't even know who does have podcasts. I don't know, does Scary Mommy do one? Like I don't
I
know,
think they
but they should because it's not that complicated. And if all they ever did was just, and I'm not picking on them because they certainly know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They probably don't need to do a podcast, but
Right.
I would think how cool would it be to pick the top 3 articles of the week and just have the authors read them? And I
Yeah.
mean, it's not hard to do, and it certainly isn't going to hurt their readers. So, like, I don't see a downside other than a little bit of legwork. And again, I'm just using them as an example. But I don't understand why more collaborative sites don't try something like that because no one's doing it. And I think I understand the individual not getting involved as much, but I don't get the big sites not doing it. It's
Yeah.
surprising to me, which is good for people that do it because they'll probably get more of those people who, are looking to listen to someone who's a writer.
Hmm.
But
No, I know. I'm with
but
you.
so let's so talk about and I do want You are starting in an e-course, and let's talk a little bit about that because
Yeah.
that's coming up in a few months.
Yeah, I'm going to probably be launching it at the beginning of March. So forever people are like, "Oh, when are you monetizing? When are you monetizing? I'd pay for your stuff." And it's one of those things where I sort of wanted to build that community first before asking for money. And I'm sure there's people out there who are all about monetizing your site that would say, like, you are doing it completely wrong, like you should be doing this and that.
Oh, really?
I don't have ads on my site or any of that stuff, but
Sure.
the only thing really that I've done to monetize Beyond Your Blog so far is I do offer consulting. Not I don't necessarily, I'm not an editor. I edit Beyond Your Blog, but I'm also not an editor. I kind of write, but I'm definitely not an editor. So what I do is I'll look at somebody's either a single piece they've written or their overall blog and give them kind of a submission strategy, like places that I would recommend that they submit, the contacts that they need, all that kind of stuff. So I do that, but other than that, I hadn't really monetized, and that's just something I do kind of here and there. So I decided, okay, I want to launch this e-course, and then I thought about, okay, well, what do I want it to be? Like I said, I personally have not written for, New York Times Modern Love or some of these big sites or print publications and things. So I didn't want to come out and do anything about like, launching your freelancing career to make XYZ dollars or anything like that. I really wanted to focus on where I've been, which is, are you a new blogger that for whatever reason wants to get published on another site? And here's some reasons why you might want to do that. And really just take the newer blogger, or maybe you've been blogging for 10 years, but you've never submitted your writing anywhere else kind of thing. And show those people like, here is how you do it. And there, this is not like an exclusive world where you have to have been paid before for your writing to ever get paid, or you have to have some kind of credential that you don't have, because that's not the case. Like, I'm here to tell you that it's not the case, because if somebody published me, you can get published too. So the e-course just kind of steps you through, like, how does payment work? Where do you find the opportunities to submit your writing? How do you know if you're a good fit? How do you handle rejection? How do you promote your work on other sites? How do you republish the stuff that's already on your blog to kind of give it another life? So all that's going to be coming in sort of the self-paced e-course with some cool bonuses and stuff in early March.
Yeah, that's a really a no-brainer. And I am a huge fan of paying for guides from people who have gone before you and can save you countless hours. And days even, and also just a lot of headache and heartache. So so for them to get information about it, maybe I'm sure you'll be posting about it on beyondyourblog.com, also the Facebook group, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, no, I think you're actually doing it the exact correct way, which is get people hooked on you and then hit them up for a course. I think that's absolutely seems like the strategy that makes the most sense. So you've given away so much good content for free that, now you're giving away premium content for, whatever it's going to cost is absolutely something that I would think many people will be signing up for. I'll probably sign up for it for sure.
I hope so. That would be awesome. Yeah, I'm hoping that there are, it's not, who it's not for is kind of like the blogger who's been published everywhere, and
Sure.
you know what I mean? Like somebody who's done it all and knows more than I do. Like, it's really for the somebody who's kind of new to that world. And I know there's a lot of people in my Facebook group even who are kind of like, and I've done this in other Facebook groups, like flies on the wall, like, well, I've never been published anywhere else, but I want to, so I'm just going to kind of lurk in here and see what's going on. So I'm like, oh, I hope some of those people like come to my course so I can meet them sort of virtually and get them to realize that, like, yes, you can totally do this quickly. It's easy.
Well, and you know what happens? It's this magical thing happens when you pay for something. There tends to be a lot more accountability and motivation that comes with writing a check up to something versus sort of just sitting on the sidelines. And I tell people that all the time, that if you, like, for example, if you really want to get to the gym and you can't get to the gym, hire a personal trainer for $500 a month, especially if you can't afford it. Sign up for a 12-month commitment, and you will find yourself at every single one of those sessions, and you will be cursing the fact that you are paying for it, but you will get the result.
Yeah.
And that's kind of an extreme example, but works for a lot of us who kind of go, well, I mean, I signed up for Stephanie Springer's writing class with
Yeah.
Jessica Smock, and partly, and Jessica and Stephanie know their stuff,
Yeah.
and I didn't really take it with the intention of having them lay upon me some editing and sort of content writing maxims that would just blow me away. Although I knew I would get that,
Yeah.
I was like, I need to get back to writing, and I'm not doing it. So I'm going to pay for this course because, at the very least, I now have obligations to write because they partnered us up, and there was just
Yeah.
like you just couldn't not do it. I mean, you could have, but
Yeah.
then I would have been letting someone else down. So it's accountability is great, and I find that when you throw a few shekels at something, oftentimes you'll find that amazingly you have a lot more motivation to participate in it. Now, not everyone. I mean, we all buy books we don't read and things like that. But especially now you have a Facebook. I mean, you've got the Facebook group. You've got what you've built is a real culture and a group of people that is supportive and is all sort of in for the same goal,
Yeah.
which is to get published and to get out there. And I think it's awesome.
DJ, I
So
took the Her Stories class too. It's so funny that you said that because it was like the gym analogy you used. So I was like, okay, I really need to do something because I've never taken a writing course and like I hate
yeah, me
writing.
neither.
Like I'd rather take a test any day of the week in college and high school than have to write a paper. Please God, no. And so I was like, okay, I really should do this, but I wasn't like, oh, I can't wait to do this writing course, you know? So,
Oh,
but as
sure.
soon as I paid for it, I'm like, well, hell, I'm doing this. I'm going to do every lesson. I'm going to be the first one done. You know, I was like overachiever. And like you said, they paired us up and all this stuff. And I actually ended up writing the piece in that class that what got into the I Still Just Want to Peel and book with Jen Mann. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow. How
and it
about
was kind
that?
of like it was the humor one. So I'm like, well, obviously, like I know how to write humor, you know, not really, but I was like, this is like that. I'm really here to learn how to write all these other things because obviously I write humor all the time, and then I probably would not have written something that got into her book without the class because they really did give some great feedback. So it was kind of funny.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And yeah, you're so right. So I think we have covered it. And just to sort of, recap, obviously, Susan's got her own personal blog, PeckedToDeathByChickens.com, and then her editing powerhouse site, along with all of her podcast episodes, are at BeyondYourBlog.com, and join her Facebook group, Beyond Your Bloggers. It's a closed group, but she promises to carefully review your application and most likely let you through. And I was just looking at it, and I think it says I know like 200 of the people that are in that group. So that's a testament of obviously there's a lot of quality people in there. I was just looking at the names. There's a lot of big time people
Yeah,
in
a lot of
that group.
editors too in the group.
Sure, that's awesome, and a lot of people who have been published a lot of places are in that group. So you're going to be getting hopefully a lot of good feedback from various people and just advice. But other than that, be on the lookout for Susan's course that's coming in a few months. Also, go to the midlife conference, which is coming up this year. She'll also be at Blog You, not Blog Her. And gosh, I don't know. Did we cover
Maybe
everything?
blog her next year. I think we covered everything. Yeah.
Do we know where Blog Her is next
Well,
year?
from what I've heard, they tend to go East Coast, middle of the country, and then LA. So they should
Maybe we'll
be,
go back.
or I'm sorry, I think maybe it's East Coast, West Coast,
Yeah,
because
maybe
we
it'll be
just had it's got
Chicago.
to be Chicago. I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I'm gonna predict, but I don't know.
Do you know what? It's funny. I live in Chicago, and
Yeah, that's right.
it actually, when it was here several years ago, you'd think that would be better.
Yeah,
It actually, in a way, well, it was fun because Aiming Low was around then, and I was writing with them, and we did one of the parties.
it was
But
fun.
it actually made it a lot worse because I lived probably 3 miles from where it was,
Right.
and having to go home, and it was like when I have a dog, and so I had to go home every night.
Yeah.
And it actually made it more difficult than so I
You
think
lose your
for me.
momentum, you know?
Well, yeah, and it's just nobody wants to drive home at midnight and
Yeah.
then come back at 7 in the morning or whatever. And it actually was harder. it being here in a weird way. It was cheaper, but
Yeah.
it was harder in a weird way. Like I now prefer to not be here because it's hard for me to justify like, oh, it's only 2 miles. This time, if they do it again, it'll probably be 2 miles from where I live,
Yeah.
and it's but anyway, it's whether you come to conferences or not, you can listen to Susan on her podcast, you can read her content, and also participate in her Facebook group. And I'm a huge fan. I think I'm glad that I'm getting more involved in your stuff because I'm always looking for like guides and help, and I don't participate that much in that sort of thing. So
Yay.
I'm excited to be in that Facebook group and
Awesome.
and get some momentum. And I have been. It's so funny. People forget like once you become friends with some of these big time, not even big time bloggers, but people who put together anthologies, you will, and obviously you can just go to your site and you'll see and ways to contribute to those, but you will find that so many people are eager to put those kind of publications together, or like, again, if people who are editors, and you will be amazed at how many opportunities just start to kind of flow your way. And just a lot of things that, I mean, there was a time, I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, where it seemed like everyone was putting together an anthology, and
Yes.
I must have got asked, and it's not that I'm not that big of a deal at all, but I got asked to probably be in like six
Oh my
anthologies, and I
gosh.
ended up turning them all down, not because they weren't good enough for me. I was just like kind of too busy, and I sort of was like, actually, I was in one that I think never even came out.
Yeah.
But in fact, you might have been in it too. I'm not sure
Oh,
who was in
I'm
it.
in a couple that are in La La Land right now.
Limbo.
Yes, Limbo.
Yeah, yeah. Gosh, I forget. One of them was a really funny one called "Does Not Write Well with Others." I
Oh,
don't know
I
if you
no,
were.
I'm not in that one.
Oh, it was so good, and then it just never happened.
Oh,
But anyway,
I have a
so
hard time, like, because I've been asked to be in one that was sort of like exclusive invite type of thing now, and
oh, nice.
so but I have a very hard time, like, okay, I need you to write something on this topic by this date, go. Like I can write if it
Right.
just comes to me, but so I've been working on that very diligently, but it's not as easy for me as something where I just come up with the idea.
Right. Well, my favorite is the, so few of them really make money, which I
Yeah.
don't think is the reason to do it, because there's really no money in it anyway, unless you just like, I mean, you're Gen Man. If you're in Gen Man's thing, maybe there is, but for most of them, I love it. It's like in one I was in, they were like, okay, we're going to split everything 30 ways. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
that's
Here's your
three
six
cents.
cents. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But the best part is I potentially have 29 other people that'll be promoting it. Maybe they'll get eyeballs to my stuff. So
Yeah.
that's, I think, probably the right reason to do it.
Yeah.
Or also, just to have fun and collaborate. But so I'm a huge believer in, and I hate the word networking, so I won't use it, but to, collaborate with other bloggers, to, share ideas, and you have like created a whole environment where people can do that. So I think that is so valuable to people, and I really can't be more excited
Well,
about it.
thank
So
you so much. Thanks for letting me share all that today too. It was fun talking to you.
yeah, well, thank you. I love the fact that you have a podcast too. I
Yay.
wish more people did it, but I'm glad that at least you do. So well, I will see you later this year.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
I say goodbye.
Bye bye.